Joining me now is Dr. Gregory Goyer. He's an OBGYN and a maternal fetal medicine specialist based here in Detroit. He's also a member of the Committee to Protect Health Care. Also joining us is Wayne County Prosecuting Attorney Kim Worthy. Thanks to both of you for being with us today. Prosecutor Worthy, you and I spoke a few months ago. There was a window of chaos, they call it here, 72 hours, where it was not clear whether that 1931 law was going into effect and prosecutions could take place for abortions. At the time, you told me you were one of, I think, seven prosecuting attorneys who said you will not prosecute in Wayne County abortions that are performed there. But you made the point that the Attorney General actually has ultimate power in this. Dana Nessel being the Attorney General, she's up for election. She was on the show yesterday. I put that question to her. Here's what she told me.
Once you are the top law enforcement official in the state of Michigan, and you can go into any doctor's office in the state, and you can literally issue subpoenas and do search warrants and find out what people's medical records say, you can prosecute anyone, and all bets are off. And even if this ballot proposal were to pass, and I very much hope that it will, you know, somebody's got to defend it in court. Right. It's going to be challenged, and guess who has to defend it? The Michigan Attorney General.
Right, so this is an important point, that she's running against somebody who may not choose to defend either the position, whether it's Prop 3, if it passes, or may choose to try and look back at that 1931 law. Who knows what happens? Right. Your point is, wherever you are in this state, even if you're in Wayne County, in which you had said it would be safe to have an abortion, you have to think about the political implications.
We have to think about everything, because without that partnership, as long as she's reelected, I'm not worried about it, because I know in Wayne County, we're going to use our precious resources to prosecute, for example, the men who impregnate these children. Right. Or the rapists who rape these women, and then they have to make these decisions, which they can't make if this doesn't pass. So, but we have to have that partnership, or all of our efforts might be for naught.
As opposed to prosecuting pharmacists, doctors, or in Texas, Uber drivers, whoever they'd have you prosecute.
Right. As opposed to all of that, we want to focus not only on those type of crimes, but gun violence is rising all over this country. We need to concentrate on that. We need to concentrate on the rapists, the robbers, the carjackers, serious crimes that are harming the everyday citizen every day. And that's my priority, rather than prosecuting pharmacists, doctors, and nurses for helping women terminate their pregnancy, whatever the reason is.
Dr. Goyer, we talked about 72 hours where we didn't know what was going on, but it's not over in this state. And if Prop 3 doesn't pass, it's not clear what will happen. You have very practical examples of, if you are a doctor, if you are an abortion provider, if you're a reproductive health provider, in that 72 hours of chaos, certain things had to be thought about that you would not think should be thought about when you're dealing with the care of a woman who is pregnant.
That's exactly right. And what we saw when we tabletop these exercises, patient comes in, for instance, with a tragic miscarriage and is bleeding heavily. Well, then you have to think, how sick does that patient have to get before we can provide her evidence-based, life-saving care without risking arrest? Or a pregnancy, an ectopic pregnancy, a pregnancy in the fallopian tube, which is also life-threatening. Okay, well, how sick does she have to become before we can provide her life-saving, evidence-based care without risking a felony?
And in this particular case, what Prosecutor Worthy was saying becomes relevant, right? Because if you're now in a different county, the question might be different county to county as to whether you'd be prosecuted. So now you might be thinking about transporting a patient, or having a patient, telling a patient, as we've seen in other states, you have to go somewhere else.
We literally, within our system, had those conversations and said, well, if a patient has this complication, do we need to move her from one site, different county, to Wayne County, where we knew the patient would receive the best care and her providers would be protected from charges.
Prosecutor, tell me about I spoke to people about Proposal 3, and while they thought that they might support the abortion components of it, they were concerned that it was imposing other restrictions on parents of transgender children. I read through it and I couldn't see how anything in that proposal would change the rights of parents of transgender children, and yet that's what's getting out there in the disinformation sphere.
It's ludicrous and ridiculous. That's what happens when people know on the opposing side that the majority of Michiganders want this Proposal 3 to pass. So they will lie, they will mislead, they will disguise the truth. This has nothing whatever to do with any gender transition therapy, nothing. This has nothing to do with the child being able to give consent all of a sudden. Nothing to do with it. It's well versed in Michigan law that the child must have parental consent when they're a minor. It's well versed. It also has nothing to do, this is not a taxpayer funded or thing is either. So they're saying those things and others. The kind of things we've got in the mail are horrendous, and they're lies. And they just want to lie their way through to make sure they ban abortion in Michigan. And it's really heartbreaking. I can't even watch these commercials because it makes me physically ill. Do we really want our doctors having that be part of the equation, worrying about whether they're going to be prosecuted or arrested? Or do we want them focusing on their patients? All of this is so just ridiculous. Roe versus Wade, we haven't had it for 121 days, when we had it for 50 years almost before then. All Prop 3 does, all it does, it's very simple, is restore our rights under Roe versus Wade. Nothing more, nothing less. Nothing to do with anything else they're trying to throw at people to get them to vote no.
You said something very interesting in the Free Press the day Roe fell, June 24th. You said, my 3 daughters had rights when I woke up this morning. It's very sobering and upsetting that my daughters now have less right over their own body than me or my mother before them. They are now chattel. What do we tell the girl that is raped at 12 years old who must now have the baby of her rapist?
Right.
I mean, your passion comes to the fact that you can't possibly imagine 2022 your daughters having fewer rights than you had growing up or that your mother had.
This is 2022. My mother had better rights in 1974. And so we are going backwards for our girls. We want to empower our women. We want to empower our young girls to grow up and being contributing members of society. We don't want them worried about things like this. We have to protect. We as their caretakers have to protect their integrity. We have to protect their character. And we have to protect their rights. And so there's nothing more important, in my view, right now, than protecting these rights and having Proposal 3 pass.
Dr. Goyert, a lot of people who live in a state that has abortion rights or in which they're not endangered don't think of this as their problem. But in fact, what has happened since there have been abortion restrictions imposed in so many states, places like Michigan now get backlogged by a whole bunch of people out of state who can't get abortions in their own state.
So, in speaking with our colleagues at Planned Parenthood and other centers that provide comprehensive reproductive health care, they've experienced an increase of 300% to 400% increased volume calls, and their procedure volume has increased 30% to 40% already just in this time period since post-Dobbs. But another thing to emphasize is that if we return to the laws of 1931, our patients, the women of Michigan, will receive substandard care. They will experience increased rates of severe maternal morbidity, and there will be a significantly increased risk of maternal death if we return to the laws of 1931.
Prosecutor, the numbers are getting tighter in this state, and there are two kinds of issues. When I tell people what's the main thing on your mind, some people say abortion in Michigan, other people talk about democracy, and yet others talk about the economy and inflation. What is your message to people in these last couple of weeks of this election that if certain rights erode, it may be another 50 years or 75 years before you get them back?
That's right. And we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can be concerned about more than one issue. Abortion, of course, democracy, crucial, violence issues and crime, and all these other issues that people are talking about. We can do it all at once. We want Michiganders to be able to grow up in a safe society. We want them to understand what their rights are. And also, we want them to be able to choose what they want to do with their own bodies. Vote yes on Prop 3. It's an all or nothing proposition.
Yep.
It is only about pregnancy and protecting reproductive rights. That's it. Anything else anyone hears is really, I can't say the word, garbage.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because people are hearing it, and I'm hearing from people who are saying that there's something else. And, that's the beauty about the internet. You can look up the proposal, see what it actually means, and then make your decision. Thanks to both of you for being here with me this morning. I really appreciate it.
My
Great
pleasure.
to meet you in person after having spoken to you on TV a few times.
And I would love a picture if I can get one.
Oh, we will absolutely get a picture. We got nothing but time for pictures.
Thank
I love
you.
that. So I want to thank my great guest, Dr. Gregory Goyert, OBGYN and maternal fetal medicine specialist based right here in Detroit, and Kim Worthy, who is the Wayne County prosecuting attorney.